He just declared war on a federal program, calling it corrupt, wasteful, and tied to DEI. But is this reform or something bigger?
When President Trump appointed me as your Secretary of War, I made you a series of promises. I promised that every single one of your taxpayer dollars would go toward one thing and one thing only: building the most lethal fighting force on the planet. And I promised we would gut the corruptive, unconstitutional, non-merit-based DEI programs that have weakened our military and distracted us from our primary mission. And I promised we would hunt down the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that has run rampant in this department for decades, and to instead redirect that money to President Trump's America First priorities. Well, today, we are once again taking action on these promises. We're actually taking a sledgehammer to the oldest DEI program in the federal government, a program few people outside of Washington have ever heard of, that I hadn't heard of. It's called the 8A program. Now, if you're like me, you're asking yourself, what is an 8A? It's a great question. 8A refers to the Small Business Administration's program to assist, quote, small, disadvantaged businesses owned by a socially disadvantaged individual or tribe, end quote. Providing these small businesses with opportunities is a laudable goal. But over the decades, as it happens, the 8A program has morphed into swamp code words for DEI, race-based contracting. And here's the worst part. In many, many instances, these socially disadvantaged businesses, they don't even do work. They take a 10%, 20%, sometimes 50% fee off the top and then pass the contract off to a giant consulting firm, commonly known as Beltway bandits. For decades, this program, 8A, has been a breeding ground for fraud, and this administration is finally doing something about it. The Department of Justice under Attorney General Pam Bondi recently exposed $500 million in 8A fraud. Treasury, led by Secretary Hegseth, found another $250 million, and their investigation is just beginning. Treasury, Justice, and the Small Business Administration under Administrator Loeffler are all actively investigating their 8A contracts right now. Now, in the Pentagon, $100 million sole source contracts go out the door to these 8A firms almost every day. $100 million sole source contracts go out our door to these 8A firms almost every day, without any competition or opportunity for anyone else to bid. The Department of War is required by law to do almost $100 billion worth of contracts per year with small businesses, including 8A firms. Seems 8A is quite important. But we're not required to pay enormous brokerage fees, only to have these firms pass those contracts along to giant consulting companies. And we won't. We're not doing this anymore. So effective immediately, I'm ordering a line-by-line review of every small business sole source 8A contract that is over $20 million. And we'll look at everything smaller than that too. The Department of War has the biggest chunk of 8A spending, by far, 10 times more than any other agency. So our cleanup, it's going to be 10 times tougher. It's a two-stage mission. First, if a contract doesn't make us more lethal, it's gone. We have no room in our budget for wasteful DEI contracts that don't help us win wars, period, full stop. Second, we're doing away with these pass-through schemes. We'll make sure that every small business getting a contract is the one actually doing the work, and not just some shell company funneling your money to a giant consulting firm. This approach is, of course, not meant to hurt small businesses, and that's not the point. America's full of great, amazing small businesses. This is part of a larger effort to transform our acquisition ecosystem into one that makes sense for the threats we face in the 21st century. I gave a long speech about this back in November. Our goal is to spend your money to build our defense industrial base with businesses large and small that share our mission, not to line the pockets of Beltway fraudsters or to advance the agenda of DEI apologists. Only lethality, and we're going to look at every single contract.
This wasn't just a policy announcement. This was a political earthquake. Because what you just heard is a full-scale attack on a long-standing federal program. And at the center of it, Donald Trump's America First agenda. The claim? Billions wasted, fraud running rampant, contracts being flipped for profit, and the target? The 8A Small Business Program. Let's break this down clearly. This program was designed to help disadvantaged small businesses compete. But now, It's being rebranded as something else entirely. DEI gone wrong, race-based contracting, a pipeline for fraud. That's a massive shift in narrative. Because here's the truth. Yes, fraud can exist in any system, but dismantling or overhauling programs like this, that has consequences. We're talking about minority-owned businesses, tribal enterprises, small contractors trying to compete with giants, and now they're all under the microscope. The justification? Investigations led by the Department of Justice, oversight tied to Pam Bondi, claims of hundreds of millions in fraud. But here's the bigger question. Is this about accountability or ideology? Because the language matters. When you hear DEI is weakening the military, only lethality matters, that's not just policy. That's a philosophical shift in how government operates. And here's where it gets real. They're now reviewing every contract over $20 million. That means massive disruption, potential contract cancellations, entire industries affected. And for supporters, this is long overdue. Cut waste, stop middlemen, prioritize efficiency. But critics, they're asking something different. Are we throwing out opportunity in the name of politics? Because once you label something DEI, it becomes a target. And that's the tension in this moment. One thing is clear. This isn't a small change. It's a system-wide reset. Drop your thoughts below. Is this cleaning up corruption or dismantling opportunity? And subscribe to Blue Voice for more sharp, unfiltered political breakdowns.